Now, this story is about a triumph which I had yesterday. It's about the last 2 days, about a triumph I had yesterday over the local mafia, right? Here in the Latin Quarter. Yes, we even have a mafia here. It's not called a mafia, but it's a tight little club, as you will see. And I was running up against them. And I won the battle, and that's why I love talking about it. And this is Brutus reporting from my garret in Paris. I'm so lucky I live here, just steps from Notre Dame in a 500-year-old dwelling. Actually, should be a national monument in the very best and most beautiful neighborhood in Paris, which is Saint-Michel, or Notre Dame. Surrounded by beautiful churches, surrounded by beauty. And I've got an easy life. I've got just enough retirement to live on, and a wonderful senior restaurant and club nearby, and everything's very close. Everything's fine. The place where I ate, he said to me, "Do you have rooms for rent?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "I got a guy for you." And I let the monk move in. Guy in his 50s, very athletic, room temperature IQ, but he paid his rent. And my apartment is broken into two really small apartments. They even have their own switch box and so on. So he was great. He didn't have any visitors at all. He paid his rent, not on time, but at least he paid it. And since he's in another apartment, more or less, I could hardly hear him or notice him. And time went by until I just got tired of how slovenly and dirty he was. And so I said to him, "You're going to have to leave." And he immediately said, "I'm not leaving. You can't throw me out." Right? I went back to see this guy, Eddie, the restaurant owner, and I said, "I'm having trouble with this guy. He won't move out, blah, blah, blah." And he just said, "Oh, well, yeah, he's a little difficult to deal with, but he wouldn't get mixed up in it, take any responsibility." Okay, somehow he talked me out of it, or I just decided to forget about it and not worry about it, or maybe I didn't dare confront the guy. Like now he'd pee on the sink, on the seat, when he used the toilet. I'd find the seat wet, and the first couple times I tried to talk to him about it, it was a battle, "No, I didn't do it, you're absolutely wrong." So I got to the point of saying, "Hey, for 20 euros a day, I can take a piece of Kleenex and dry off the piss," and so on. So I let him stay on, and the years accumulated, and everything was fine. Two weeks ago, I went into the back room to check the meter, and I never go into my guest room. It's kind of a French tradition. Landlords, if you pay your rent, they stay out of your room. They let you have it. So I hadn't been in there in forever, and my God. First of all, the window was wide open, and the heater was set to 35 degrees centigrade, which is over 100, which means it was running nonstop 24 hours a day. So I checked on the internet, got the math, and this was costing me at French electric rates about 71 euros, or about $80 a month. This guy was costing me by leaving the window open and the heater underneath the window at top heat. All right. So that got me a little pissed off. But the problem was garbage. He had bags of garbage on each side of his desk, and uneaten food all around. And for the last 5 or 6 months, they've been doing construction on the ground floor here in the basement. And I was blaming that for the infestation of cockroaches that we've had in this apartment. I've been here 15 years. We've never had anything like this. They're going up the walls. They're climbing over my keyboard and on my screen while I'm working, right? It's like they're teasing me. so many of them, and I didn't even think that it might be coming from the other half of my apartment. And there it was, obviously. This was where the plague of bugs, which I'd been fighting in vain for 4 months, this is where it was coming from. So I said, Monk, you're out of here. This is your last month, right? At the end of this month, you've got to be somewhere else. Simple enough. Well, he didn't say, no, I won't get out of here. He just paid no attention to me and so on. And then I didn't notice any change in his behavior or anything like that as the days went by. He'd come home from working. He's a waiter. He'd come home from working and just go to bed in the afternoon for a couple hours. He certainly wasn't looking for lodging, which is hard to find in Paris sometimes. Nothing. So finally, we got up to 2 days before the end of the month of February, 2 days before he had to be out. Well, this was a big day for me because my landlord, who I really love, a very nice guy, I meet him at his office most of the time, and I bring him cash, and we're real pals. But very easygoing if I get a little behind. Wonderful fella, and he was here. He'd only been here once before in the building for about 2 minutes. Now he was here, sitting on my sofa, giving me a receipt for the rent and everything. He was here. He brought a surveyor to survey the apartment. And while that was going on, he was talking with me. And suddenly I looked up, and there was Eddie standing in my room, in my little studio here, just a couple feet from me. And he's saying, not hello, how are you, excuse me, please. No, he just says right away, you can't throw this guy out, right? You know, he's got nowhere to go. You can't throw him out. So I said, you're wasting your time. I said, we have an agreement. I made an agreement with him. It was month to month, right? And month to month means you get to stay a month and that's all. But if at the end of the month we get along, then you get to stay another month, right? But if we don't get along, this can go on for a while, but if we don't get along, then at the end of the month, you're out of here. This verbal contract doesn't give you any right to refuse to leave when I want you to leave. And so he had Monk behind him, you know, this kind of strong man behind him, backing him up and interjecting and trying to interrupt me. But anyway, they left. And my landlord said to me, he said, well, I think you handled that pretty well. That's all. It didn't matter to him. It was just a little squabble to him. So I waited, and of course, the next day was the last day in February. So I waited until the 1st of March, noon, which means the 29th of February he was allowed to stay because he'd paid for it. But after that, he was no longer paid up. He was out of here. So I went into his room at noon on the 1st, and he was lying in bed sleeping. And he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Out of here. It's done. Okay, goodbye. You're leaving." And I don't know, but I was so sure I was going to get him out of there that day. I was not going to go on with some other person telling me who is going to stay in my place. Right? This is all I got in this little place. I have to be master here. So I knew he was leaving by hook or crook, and I knew how to do it too. So he goes out and he comes running back with Eddie, right? On the 1st, yesterday. And all of a sudden I got the two of them here, and Eddie is, again, they come in, walk right into my office, my area, and I've got Eddie saying to me, no, he's staying until March 31st. Right? Otherwise, I'm friends with the police. I'm going to have the police come over and throw you out, okay? Oh, nice. Nice way to start the month of March, as you can imagine. I'm going to come over and toss you out with the cops, okay? But I won't say I didn't believe him. These were obviously guys that had, they were going to get what they wanted, period. And I could very well believe that he was connected with the cop shop over here, which turned out to be true. All right, so first he left, Eddie left, and then I was still talking to Monk, and Monk got so angry at me. He had his nose about that far away from me, 8 inches, and his eyes were glazed and he looked totally insane, and I would say he was about that far from punching me out. So I wasn't afraid. I don't get afraid in situations like that because I can handle myself. So I said, "Oh yeah, you're going to hit me? Go ahead." Right? See, and this is mental Aikido. In Aikido, you go with the direction of the attacker instead of opposing him. So I said, yeah, let's do it. Right? So that right away he said he had to adjust. So he said, no, I don't want to hit you, and that was that. And then he left. But I'll tell you, he was a dangerous character, and he's very well built, very athletic, 60 but looks 50. So he could have probably reduced me to putty, as the French say. But he didn't, and he left. And I knew what I had to do. First, I called my friend Salah. He's a painter, a friend of mine that I met on the senior restaurant. Somehow he snuck in there. And he's been a good friend to me. And I said, get over here, I need help. He said, I can't, I got this to do. And I said, this is important. And he showed. So, but first I started alone, and for an hour I started packing up all of the belongings of Monk, putting them into big plastic bags, and I had plenty of plastic bags. Well, I couldn't believe it when I got into the apartment and started pulling stuff out and putting it in bags, and some of it was already in big kind of cloth bags. It turned out he was a pack rat, right? Which is to say, we had them when I was in the Merchant Marine. We had pack rats, and these are guys who just collect everything and store it in their forecastle, and you can't even move in their forecastle because anything they got they keep, right? And here, this was the same thing. So it took me at least 12 bags to bag everything in that closet. Plus there were about 5 bags of his in the closet. So I put in a solid hour and taking pretty heavy stuff from above and bagging it. It was tough work, but I had to do it, and I knew I didn't have much time. So Salah showed up, and he went to work, and he was wonderful. He's about 46, but still in good shape. And he got the point. He knew I was in trouble. So between us, we actually got, you should have seen it, we put all the bags on the bed. I wish I'd taken pictures, but it's better if I just tell you. And the bed was totally covered with bags. It was, there must have been 40 bags of stuff there, right? And it was pretty clear that Monk was a thief because he had 7 umbrellas, for example, and he had, 40, 50 towels and so on, in various boxes and bags and so on. So, by miracle, we really got it all done within another hour. So I put in about 2 hours altogether. And as we got the bags all done, we put them on the landing on the floor below. There's a pretty big landing there. And it was the perfect place to put them. And I helped, of course. I've got a pretty weak back, but I did my best, and we did it. And we got 41 bags stacked up against that. Nobody uses that the door down there, so we had 41 bags neatly stacked up there. And Salah had to leave; he had to get somewhere, and out he went. And I immediately locked the door. Well, we'll have to go back. Before I started boxing everything or bagging everything, I fixed the door so that their key would not work, right? So when Monk came back with Eddie or whatever, they couldn't come in. And I heard them while I was cleaning out the closet. I could hear them trying to turn the lock and not succeeding. So then I knew time was of the essence. Okay. And we got it all down there. Off went Salah, and 3 minutes later on the door, loud, bang, 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 right? I mean, when the French cops knock on the door, they don't fuck around. They want you to hear it, right? Well, okay, I've been through that before. The cops have been here before. So that's how they say hello, right? So it turns out Eddie's in very good with the commissar of the neighborhood, the top cop, chief of police, right? Each neighborhood has its own chief of police, and it's a good pal of Eddie. So I picked a difficult adversary, and he sent the police force to get his way with me, right? And it's with the French cops. I love France, all right? Well, let's stop for a moment and see how this came out.